And that's the problem with our system, is because they make such a good first impression saying everybody's guilty that it's hard to get a fair trial. But thank God we got jurors. They took hundreds of pages of notes, and it didn't take them, what, 2 hours to figure out this is all garbage.
Major attorneys say if you're black and poor in Memphis, this is what happens. What would be your words of advice?
Leave Memphis.
Do you plan on leaving Memphis, sir?
Of course.
Ordered as this is what your justice is in Memphis. So if you're black and poor, you got a problem.
The state of Tennessee made it look like they wanted Hernandez Govan's head, but when you break it down, it's clear they weren't truly after him. They let him slip through their fingers. Still, in the background, whispers kept growing louder. This wasn't about Govan at all. The real target, people say, is Yo Gotti. And that's where things start to twist into something much bigger. Imagine the scene. Federal files stacked so high they could crush a desk. Pages filled with names, times, and numbers. Witnesses lined up, each ready to point the finger, each claiming they saw or heard something. Detectives bragging about the cooperation they secured, promising they had every angle covered. Cameras rolling outside Makita's cookie shop, picking up shadows, suspicious figures, and vehicles that had no business being there. Cars lingered like vultures circling a carcass parked across the street in the days before Dolph's tragedy. On the surface, it looked airtight, like the state had Govan cornered with nowhere to run. The weight of the evidence appeared crushing, almost suffocating, as if the outcome had already been written. But then came the trial. The tension in that courtroom was heavy, every breath sharp and uncertain. And when the jury finally spoke, the atmosphere shifted. Their words cut through the silence like a blade. Count 1, not guilty. Count 2, not guilty. They delivered the verdict slow, measured, almost cold-blooded. And just like that, Hernandez Govan, who everyone thought was finished, walked out a free man, as if none of it had ever touched him.
State of Tennessee versus Hernandez Govan, count 2. We, the jury, find the defendant, Hernandez Govan, not guilty in count 2 of the indictment.
One by one, the jurors were asked to confirm the verdict. Each voice carried across the silent courtroom, calm and steady, almost unnervingly so. Yes, this is my verdict. The repetition hit like the ticking of a clock, each answer sealing the outcome tighter and tighter. With every confirmation, the tension that had been coiled in the air for weeks began to unravel, and then in a single moment it snapped like a balloon popping. The pressure, the anticipation, the fear, it all collapsed into stunned silence. Just like that, in the blink of an eye, Hernandez Govan, the last man standing in the state's case tied to the Young Dolph murder, was cleared. No chains, no sentence, no weight of guilt stamped on his name. He walked out untouched, his steps steady, while the courtroom sat frozen, struggling to process what had just unfolded. For everyone else, spectators, family members, the streets outside, it wasn't closure, it was confusion. The verdict didn't end the story, it blew it wide open. People were left spinning, questions spiraling, speculation running wild. If Govan wasn't guilty, then who really was?
Guys, so let's just keep it real. This is all garbage. And
why did they let this man walk free? How does someone like Hernandez Govan walk out of a courtroom untouched when the evidence looked like a noose tightening around his neck? There were phone calls linking him to the aftermath. There were shooters pointing the finger, trying to shift the weight off themselves and onto him. There were receipts, hard paper trails, tying Govan directly to the very men accused of pulling the trigger. On paper, it shouldn't have even been a debate. The case looked solid, the connections undeniable. And yet, when the gavel fell, none of it stuck. He walked away clean. To anyone watching, it didn't just feel strange, it felt impossible.
You saw how they shaded off the phone records. Where are the text messages? Where's any of that from Justin Johnson to our client saying we're going to do something? I presented hundreds of text messages where he's threatening people, trying to go shoot people with others. Govan was never in on any of it.
But here's where the story flips. Word on the streets is the feds told the state to stand down because they're piecing together something way bigger, something that goes far beyond one man's charges. Think back. Those earlier attempts on Young Dolph's life didn't even happen in Memphis. Remember Charlotte, North Carolina? When Dolph's bulletproof SUV got sprayed with hundreds of rounds? That wasn't some random drive-by. And who just so happened to be in the same city at the same time? Yo Gotti and his brother, Big Jook. That's not luck. That's too many coincidences stacked on top of each other. And it doesn't stop there. Two men with ties to CMG were actually arrested for those earlier shootings. One of them is still sitting behind bars right now. That's not smoke, that's fire that's been burning under the surface for years. Now, people are saying the feds are finally ready to rip the lid off everything. Even Black Youngsta couldn't outrun the shadows. He once carried charges from that same Charlotte shooting. But pay attention, lately, he's been distancing himself from CMG, the very label that made him a star. Officially, his name isn't stamped under Gotti's empire anymore. Why move like that? Why walk away from the camp that built you? Some say he feels the storm closing in. Others whisper he knows exactly what Hernandez Govan knows. The kind of secrets that make a man cut ties early, before the whole house comes crashing down.
I got a team around me that was very confident and supportive, so without them it wouldn't be no me. I just want to thank again Manny, Robert, Haley, Beth, Handel, Contrell, Leanne, and just everybody that played a part in proving my innocence.
Behind the curtains, the feds may already be tearing into Yo Gotti's paper trail, peeling back bank accounts, shell companies, shady flips, and quiet backroom deals. The alleged mission? To connect him directly to a murder plot against Adolph Thornton Jr. The world knew him as Young Dolph, and don't think that sounds impossible. Prosecutors have played this game before. They've turned ledgers, wire transfers, and receipts into weapons, flipping financial records into guilty verdicts. If that same strategy is unfolding here, CMG could be staring down one of the biggest federal cases hip-hop has ever seen. And maybe that's why Yo Gotti's been moving different. No headlines, no messy beefs, no outlandish stunts to grab attention, just silence. A man who once thrived in the spotlight now looks like he's hiding from it, laying low as if he knows eyes are watching from every angle. It doesn't feel like a career shift, it feels like survival mode. Because, let's be real, Dolph's most consistent, deadliest feud in the streets was with CMG. That wasn't industry hype cooked up for album sales. It was personal, and with every passing year, it only grew more toxic. The breaking point came when Dolph dropped 100 shots, a record that wasn't just music but a declaration of war. Then came Play With Yo B and If You Know, You Know, tracks that dug at open wounds. According to whispers on the streets, those songs alone lit a fire so hot it sparked talk of a six-figure bounty on Dolph's head. What started as rap competition mutated into something darker. Street vendettas, money on the line, and death circling closer with every move. But Dolph's own choices fed into the storm. Friends and family begged him to roll with armed security every single day in Memphis. Everyone knew the threat level. Everybody saw how heavy the pressure was on his name. Yo Gotti often moved like a boss behind a wall of guards, but Dolph rejected that life. He preferred to ride solo, or with just a small circle, and he did it in style. Flashy camo-wrapped cars, engines roaring so loud the whole block knew who had just pulled up. It wasn't just flexing, it was a beacon, a target. In a city drowning in one of the highest murder rates in America, moving like that without serious backup wasn't courage. It was suicide, and in the end, that's how it played out. One afternoon, run to Makita's cookie shop, no heavy security, no disguise, no escape plan, and the world lost an independent king in broad daylight. But here's the cruel irony. The same choices that made Dolph vulnerable are the same ones that cemented his legacy. He refused to bend to CMG, refused to bow to pressure, refused to give up his independence. He owned his masters. He controlled his publishing. He built businesses that would feed his family long after him. Dolph proved to the game that you didn't need a major label to shine, that independence wasn't just possible, it was Powerful, risky, yes. Dangerous without question. But it made him a legend in ways money could never buy. The harsh truth, though, is this. The legacy belongs to the fans, but the pain belongs to his family, his widow, his children. They're the ones left with the empty chairs at dinner, the late-night memories, and the hole no tribute can ever fill. And to make it worse, one of the very men once painted as the mastermind behind his killing is already back on the streets, free, at least for now, while the whispers grow louder that the real storm hasn't even started yet.
Yeah, and have my life back.
What's the first thing you plan to do?
Go hug my son.
The legacy lives on, but so does the wound, and for those closest to Young Dolph, it cuts deeper with every passing day. But here's what people tend to forget. The feds don't move sloppy. They don't rush, they don't stumble, they wait, they study, they build piece by piece, stacking evidence until there are no cracks to slip through. And when they finally strike, it isn't with a warning, it's with a knockout. Federal cases don't just land, they crush. The numbers prove it. RICO convictions carry a success rate north of 96%. That's not a fight, it's almost a guarantee. Just ask others who thought they were untouchable. Plenty of street legends walked free from state charges, only for the feds to circle back. Patient, calculated, relentless, until the walls closed in. When the feds are watching, it's never over. It's only the calm before the storm. So, what's next? Whispers on the streets say the storm is already forming. Files are being built, timelines connected, financial trails mapped out. And when that storm finally breaks, it could come crashing down on Yo Gotti and CMG. Because, let's be real, no matter how much money you've stacked, no matter how sharp your lawyers are, fighting the feds isn't like fighting the state. This is a different battlefield, and survival isn't guaranteed. Which leaves us with questions that may never have answers. What if Dolph had signed with CMG? Would the handshake have been a truce that saved his life, or just a pause before the same fate caught up to him? Could he still be alive today if he had moved under the same banner as his rivals, or was staying independent, owning his masters, controlling his empire, and building generational wealth the right call, even though it carried the ultimate price? The truth is, the debate will live forever, just like Dolph's legacy.